like an ideal percentage of your income that you should save? Like, I had heard that there is this, I would say, formula, which is like, this is the percentage you save, this is the percentage you can spend on rent, and then this is like how much you can spend. So, do you guys think there's a percentage?
I have a question. What's your rent here in Mumbai?
Oh, do you really want to know?
Yeah.
I spend, I pay 31,000 rupees monthly.
But this is Mumbai, right?
Yeah.
Like my rent in Bangalore, I think I have 2 rooms for the same amount of money in the best locality in Bangalore.
Moving
So,
to Bangalore?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're staying, how much you're earning, what your
Yeah.
profession is like. There's no one rule that applies to all. You can take guidance from these formulas, these thumb rules,
Yeah.
but they don't apply. So what you can do instead is you can, if you are salaried and if you are young, that I'm getting 50,000, 20-30,000 is my rent, 10,000 are my living expenses, another 10,000 is for fun. So I am saving that, if your 20 is rent, you're saving 10,000 every month, and that 10,000 I know I have to save and invest. So
Yeah.
as soon as you get your paycheck, first thing you do is take that 10,000, put it away in a different account, and then manage with what you have.
Yeah.
So do this thing where you can reasonably estimate that I can like save 5,000, 10,000, put it away as soon as you get your paycheck, and then do whatever you want with the rest.
Yeah.
So a percentage that works for you.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I used to do it the other way around, that I would get my paycheck, spend everything, and then whatever's left, that I would put into my savings, which I realize is not the best way to go about, because then you're constantly worried about the percentage and whatever. But
Yeah.
I think if you just know how much percent you want to save, so treat it as like an expense at the beginning of the month. Like, as your rent is going out, just make sure your SIP is also going out in the same week or
Yeah.
whatever, and then whatever's left, that's like free money. It's like
Yeah.
not free money, you work hard for it, but it's like, oh my god, this is my money now, and then
Yeah.
you can do whatever with it. So it's like more, I think, just takes the pressure off of like trying to save for the whole month, because all of that's taken care of in the beginning of the month, and then you're just like, okay, chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. I would just wanted to ask you guys that if you all know of, not anyone, but if just like general mistakes that people could make while filing their own taxes, like something for people to remember that, okay, do this and do that. Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, I think first of all, whenever like beginning of the year only, inform your HR that, your finance department, that these are the investments that I'm going to make, so that your in-hand salary increases. Otherwise, they're going to deduct the tax, and then later you'll have to, claim it again. So first of all, inform in the beginning only that these are the investments I plan. Now around this time, December, Jan, is when your HR or your finance team is going to ask you for the proofs.
Yeah.
So ensure you give those proofs on time, so that, they don't deduct all your, they don't deduct more of your salary now, which they didn't before. Okay, and then the second thing is around this time, which is December, Jan, ensure that all your declarations are correct, so that when you are filing your taxes in March end or like June, there is not a lot of problem there, and it's completely seamless.
Yeah.
And then again, like I said before, do goal first investments, and tax investments should fit into it, and that should not be your only priority.
So, Anushka, I know freelancers, when they are filing taxes, they are also working with so many companies, and somebody's cutting TDS, somebody's not cutting TDS. So what's the deal with TDS?
So TDS is that when you're paying taxes at the year end, actually, another thing is you're not supposed to pay only at year end. If you're a freelancer, you also have to pay advance tax. Okay, so that's like in 4 installments, but that's another story. If you're a freelancer, you have to pay these taxes, but the person who's giving you the money will deduct a part of that money, say 10%, which usually is the case, and will give you the amount. So in the end, when you're paying the money, you're paying your taxes, this is already paid, so you don't have to pay that amount, you only pay the rest of the amount.
Correct.
Okay, but if you are not in that tax bracket, say if you have like a lot of deductions, a lot of business expense, and your tax liability is actually less than the TDS that has already been paid, then you can actually get a return also of that tax, because that's not something you were supposed to pay. So
Right.
for this, no matter how much you're earning, always file your taxes. No matter if you have no tax liability, file it, because somewhere in your FD or like one of your clients, your clients must have deducted that tax, the TDS, and you'll get that as a rebate. So always file your tax returns.
That is so important because I totally did not file my taxes until I hit the limit. I'm like, abhi to time hai. I'm not even under the tax brackets. Might as well let it go. But I should have probably.
This also, filing your taxes also helps you in getting cheaper loans because you have history there.
Right.
Yeah.
I started filing taxes quite late. Like after I started, I started filing taxes much later. Like after I jumped brackets. But apart from there, I was just like, हाँ अभी तो क्या क्या ही ज़रूरत है.
But this is a good tip, you know, like you don't have to necessarily be like, especially for people in their 20s
Yeah.
who probably don't make enough, like they don't have taxable income, as
Yeah.
you say. So, but you can still file your taxes because it helps you with loans. That's a
And get rebates
Yeah.
if someone's cutting on your behalf.
that's a really good tip, listeners. Did you listen? So yeah, to wrap up this episode, I have one last question for you, which is kind of like a tips for our listeners. So I just want to ask that what, according to you, are the first 3 things that people should ideally do or remember when they just start saving money?
I would flip it. Tell me your mistakes.
My mistakes.
Yeah.
Pura episode was about my mistakes. What am I supposed to do here? But okay, let me think. First of all, I thought that I need to, like, my first mistake was not knowing the correct age like to save, and
Correct?
like the right age. Like, you
Okay.
remember when I said that people were like, yeah, it's your 20s, so
So there's a tip number 1. Start saving as early as possible, even
Yeah.
no matter how little that amount is.
yeah.
You tell me one mistake that you made.
Just obsessing about how much tax was getting cut and trying to save everything, and now I'm stuck in these 3 and 5 year lock-in periods.
Same.
Yeah, so that's tip number 2.
That is tip number 2.
Always invest with a goal in mind. Everything else is secondary.
True.
Yeah. And I think the one more for me would be that the fact that I did not rely on a CA and I was like, I'll do it myself. So yeah, probably that's also a good tip that, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, get some advice. Like, it's always great to be independent, but not in every aspect of life, especially when it's money you've worked very hard to earn.
That's tip number 3. Don't invest or put your hard-earned money in something that you don't understand, no matter how crazy returns you're getting.
Yeah.
Stick to an FD if you don't understand anything else. If you want help or if you need that help, ask for it and then only branch out into making those investments. It's
Yeah.
money saved is money earned here.
Exactly. But yes, guys, thank you for being on this podcast. I hope you all had a good time. And to the listeners, thank you for listening to this podcast as well. If you guys enjoyed listening to this episode of Misunderstood the Assignment, then don't forget to tune in next week for a new episode. Also, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other streaming platform where you get your podcast from. Also, if you like this episode, then don't forget to give us a nice rating and review.